Chair. So my question is on the economics of this deal. We are being in the nation, addressing summer school, addressing so many other things that we were told just a few days ago are not affordable. And so I want to make sure that we are actually going to get a positive return on our investment. To that end, I've done a lot of research, as have many of my colleagues out to economists. The Nevada Independent had a great article on this. There was a quote from J.C. Bradbury, who's an economist, who says, "Anyone who is telling you that there's an economic benefit to the stadium deal is lying. I've studied this deal to death. There's universal agreement. People will always say, but this one is different. Every single stadium deal I've ever looked at, people are saying this one is different, and they are always the same." There's other quotes from other economists. We know that 83% say that this is a negative investment. We know that 14% say that its positives don't really outweigh the negatives, so 3% say it's a good idea. And so my question is, if you're going against 97% of economists, what your qualifications are to dismiss 97% of economists. And so I just want to know who at your table has a PhD in economics and what your credentials are to allow you to dismiss them.
Sure. For the record, I'm assuming that's directed toward me. Assemblywoman, for the record, Jeremy Aguero. No one sitting up here has a PhD in economics. I've spent my career studying this economy and this industry, and I'm more than happy to evaluate any other analyses that are there. I've heard a lot about what you said. Obviously, there's been a lot of chatter that's out there. I'm not aware of any of those folks that have done an analysis here in the state of Nevada, much less in Southern Nevada. And if they are, they're welcome to give me a call and we can have a conversation about our assumptions versus their assumptions as it relates. Not surprising to get all of this because I understand where this comes from and I want to be clear about this. Those analysts that look at stadiums and arenas around the United States are largely correct. And I want to be very clear about that. They are largely correct. If you build a stadium or an arena in a location that does not benefit from visitation the way ours would, if we took out the 40 million visitors that come a year and the assumptions of how many of them are going to come because of this facility, it would have a negative fiscal and economic impact. Okay, so let me be clear about that. Beyond that, we got a lot of the same criticism from all of the same people around Allegiant Stadium. And so I pulled just a few of the articles that were written in 2016. October 2016, in the Reno Gazette-Journal, quoted Roger Knoll, who's a Stanford economist, well-respected throughout. And he suggested the proponents are projecting nearly 33% tourist attendance when Knoll said that other teams never break single digits. He pointed to the Angel Stadium in Anaheim, California, which is close to Disneyland, yet still doesn't break double digits in terms of tourism attendance. The idea that the thing is going to pay for itself is because of a huge inflow of tourists is crazy. He was also skeptical of how many events the stadium would actually host outside of 16 Raiders and Rebels games. There's not a stadium in the country that has more than 4 or 5 that draws those kinds of people, Knoll said. Exactly what it is about the Las Vegas Stadium, unlike any other NFL stadiums, that's going to cause it to be used extensively for events that don't occur elsewhere. I would suggest that Allegiant Stadium, having done more than 40 events, I think over 3 million folks that are there, better than doubling the estimates in terms of the visitors that were there, suggests that the analysis that was done there was correct. Deadspin, May 2023. Another commentary relative to the whole thing. In order for this deal to be direct transfer of in order for this direct deal not to be, a direct transfer of $750 million to Mark Davis, the numbers need to bear it out. The problem is they won't. So the issue becomes, how badly do the numbers miss their targets? The visibility of projects hinges on whether these stadium events actually draw tourists, and the notion that tourism will be a big part of it is just silly. It was something to convince local politicians that it was good for them. Every single thing that they made an assumption on has no prior evidence anywhere elsewhere, and question the argument that the new stadium would draw considerably more tourists to the desert. Why would they believe 500,000 who would never visit Las Vegas would suddenly show up because there was a football stadium? Again, more than doubling the estimates for those. Finally, the Las Vegas Sun on October 5th. In the end, if all of these wildly optimistic things happen, it is certainly possible that the stadium makes sense. But you have to have an unbelievable, ridiculous number of things to go right in order to do it. Assemblywoman, I've heard the criticism. I've seen it. I believe that when you look at what our state and our community has the ability to do, it sets us apart. And whether I'm in the minority of the 14% or the minority of the 3%, or you'd like to challenge my credentials or anyone else's to get it done, I will stand behind the analysis that's been done. And I'll stand behind the fact that the folks that have reviewed it are the foremost experts in the United States on visitor economics, or economics as they relate to stadiums: Goldman Sachs, Hobsong and Associates, PFM, and our firm. So I'm comfortable with it.
Assemblywoman Steve Hill, I will just add to put a point on that. They were wrong when they made those comments 7 years ago. That stadium has performed, from a visitation standpoint, about 180% of what was projected at the time. So the benefits that we projected 7 years ago, we knew were enough to make that deal make sense. It has performed 80% better than that.
Thank you for that. So just to confirm, though, much like every other community, you're telling us that our community is different.
Assemblywoman, for the record, Jeremy Aguero, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. We'll have time for, I think, a couple more questions before we break. We'll go next to Assemblywoman Kasama.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you again.